Well, good morning and welcome back to another video. I'm always saying good morning. You're probably not always watching this in the morning, so I guess I should say hello. All right, and welcome to another video. I gotta think about that for future videos, but anyway, this morning we are out on a quest in the adventure wagon to find a new spot to photograph here in northern Kentucky. Did a little bit of research, found something I thought might be kind of interesting. So I have set out on that adventure this morning. It's about 45 miles from home. It'll be the longest or the farthest from home that I've traveled, since I moved here, not quite 2 years ago. Driving along this particular road here, not far from the Ohio River, headed towards Maysville, Kentucky. It's the first time I've been on it. Typical rural Kentucky. I really enjoy the rolling hills, and as the sun's coming up, sky's kind of pink. It's kind of nice. So this morning, what are we doing? Well, aside from going to this new place to check it out, we're gonna spend a few minutes talking about a couple things. One being, travel kits, what I like to take, or why I do what I do, from a travel photography standpoint. And then I think it'll take a couple minutes to talk about some of the stuff that was announced here recently, all right, from OM Systems, the new OM3, and then the 3 new lenses that are out, that people seem to be talking about. Just share a couple of my opinions on it. So I'm going to keep driving here. Got about another 20 minutes or so before we get to where we're headed. So thanks for coming along, everybody. See you in a little bit. Well, we made it. Nice little trip through the country here in Kentucky to come to something I didn't expect to find in Kentucky when I moved here. Let me turn this around here so you can see. Welcome to Walcott Covered Bridge, also known as the White Covered Bridge. All right. Just happened to be doing some research and found that, hey, there's a few covered bridges in Kentucky, which is kind of neat. I thought so I'd come out and see if I could capture a couple images and talk about, what I use for travel photography. I thought that would be kind of a good idea. For those of you who are new to the channel and haven't really seen anything prior to me living in northern Kentucky, when I lived in Indiana, I spent a lot of time out in, Park and Putnam County, photographing all the covered bridges, in those areas, because I really enjoy them. And I was surprised to find that there are a few, here in northern Kentucky. There's even a few in southern Ohio across the river from where I live, which I think I'll try to find some time to go out and explore a couple of those here in the future. But just wanted to get out here this morning and see if I could find an image and take in something I didn't expect to see. And this is pretty nice. I'm going to turn around again. Now, as you can see, this bridge is no longer in service. My understanding is it was in service from 1824 to like 1959. All right, and it's listed on the National Register of Historic Sites. I mean, this is really a pretty nice place. I mean, it's an old bridge, but I certainly have at least kept it up a little bit. But we're going to look around here, see if we can find a couple different images. Set up and take a couple, and then we will talk a little bit about travel photography. So thanks for coming along, everybody. Let's see, built in 1824. Original bridge was preserved by G.N. Murray. The White Bridge. Yeah, here, turn around. Looking at this, it's a little different construction than what I saw in Indiana. So, yeah, really nice. All right. What kind of image can we find here? Sun's straight ahead of me. I want to capture the light on it. somewhere out here probably isn't too bad. There's a nice tree that it would be nice. I was assuming in the fall this place looks really good, but that's the way it always is. I see that and then never get here in the fall, but ah, man, it's great to be outside. Great to enjoy this. All right, so the light this morning on the bridge is really pretty nice. You know, water in the stream is really nice as well. I think I'll try to capture a picture of that. You know, it's not a gigantic bridge by any stretch, but it is pretty nice. You know, so see what move around here a little bit. See what we can come up with. Let's try up here maybe. Sorry about that. My eye was bothering me. I do love that American flag over there, although it's not blowing because there's really no breeze, but we'll still take an image of it. All right, so what settings are we using this morning? Same thing as always, shooting in manual. Right now I'm shooting at f6.3 ISO 200, and then changing the shutter speed, you know, as the light changes, you know, to try to expose correctly. Right now I'm at 1/250th of a second, which is unusual because I don't normally get that kind of light. All right, so now let's talk about travel photography and travel photography kits. What I like to do. All right, so what I like to do is travel incredibly light when I'm on vacation. All right, and I break travel photography into two different segments. All right, one, is it a photography trip? Or two, is it really where I'm just trying to get away and relax, but I want to capture images? All right, and certainly I, take a different kit for each. You know, what you see in a lot of my travel videos really, I hope would give you a pretty good idea what I like to do. I travel, a couple times a year, and I like to travel light. I mean, I like to take one camera, one lens. I don't really take a tripod with me if I can avoid it. And that's one of the beauties of having Micro Four Thirds, especially the OM system setup or the Olympus setup, because the in-body stabilization gives you the opportunity to do a lot of things that you couldn't do, all right, if you didn't have that kind of equipment. You need tripods in some of the situations I find myself in, like this morning, which we're going to take a picture here of the stream here in a couple minutes, all right, where I'm going to be able to hand hold and still, capture, moving water, but slow it down enough to where you still, you can see a little bit of a blur in it or motion blur in it. But yeah, I like to travel light. Thinking about it, if you think of the different videos I've tried, point and shoot cameras, I've tried my phone, I've tried, my OM5, and I tried, so far you've seen me do videos on using, all right, my, my Leica Q. All right, I have not taken my OM1 Mark II on a trip yet. I still plan to do that. All right, but pretty consistently the things that I like. All right, I like one camera, one body, light as I can make it. All right, I like one lens. All right, preferably a zoom, because I like to have a little bit of flexibility. Now, I'm not really into the super zooms. Don't ask me why. I just find that I don't like them. Trust me, I've tried them. I think I even did a video on one. All right, I've tried them. I don't, but I do like a zoom. So like here, the 12 to 45 gives me a good range. All right, 24 to 90 and a full frame setup. So I have some flexibility. I can do different things with it. And then with this camera, with all of its computational features, I've got filters and things built into it. I have great image stabilization. So I really don't need a lot. So I'll take a small bag, like my Peak Design 3-liter, sling bag, all right? Or I may take, I've got a Wandered 20-liter backpack, and so for most of my trips, all right, that's what I'm doing. I'm taking just simple nothing. Like I have my Peak Design strap here. I've got I got two Peak Design straps, and I have a Peak Design wrist, the wrist strap. All right, and again, depending on the trip, I'm going to take one of those three. Typically it is the wrist strap, all right, that I use. Today I chose to bring, this particular strap just to show, an example of what I'm talking about. And the reason why I like that is it allows me to get my hands free. All right, so I can walk around and then I can just pull it up and use it when I need to photograph something. But again, I don't like to take a lot. I don't like to feel like I'm weighed down, all right, on a vacation type photography or travel trip. All right, I like to have, a lot of flexibility, and so you've seen that in some of my videos, and these cameras are great for that. That's one of the reasons why I love them so much. All right, anything in micro four thirds is great for it because of its size, its features, its compactability, travelability, and everything. But now, let's say if I were going on a different type of trip, a photography trip. One of the things I've been thinking about trying to do, although the missus isn't really, too keen on it for this year, is I'd love to take an Alaskan cruise. All right, and I've done this once before. I think it was back in, I can't remember if it was 2013 or 2015, but I went to Alaska. All right, did a lot of research. I think it was 2013 because at that time I was shooting the Nikon D800. All right, did a lot of research. Now this would be totally different. There I'm going to take my, probably my Shimoda, Explorer 2, backpack, and I'm going to take along several lenses. Now I probably wouldn't take a tripod, all right, because at least my experience from that is I didn't need it. Now there are some trips I would go on where I would take it, and if I did, I'd take, my Ulanzi travel tripod, which I'm using my cameras sitting on right now, because it's light, it's small, it's easy to pack. And there are some trips where I'll take my Winston, with me because it's just, I need a little bit more sturdy and a little bit more size and heft to it, but it'll depend on the trip. But typically, like I said, for Alaska, I'm going to take anything and everything I can. Now, the one thing I wouldn't take would be a wide angle, because there's really not a lot of use for a wide angle in Alaska, all right? But there is for, certainly would be, your standard zoom, and certainly long range zooms for wildlife. And I would take my 300 f4, probably my 1.4 TC, and probably take my 40 to 150, f4. I'd probably take that. I'd take two bodies. I'd take my OM1 Mark II and I'd take my OM5. So I've got, a couple lenses already mounted, making it so I could transfer back and forth. So again, if it's photography specific, I'm going to do that. All right. If it is vacation, I'm going to go incredibly light. All right. And because I like to be mobile. All right. If I go on a hiking trip, let's say I'm going on a hiking photography trip down to the Smokies, I'm going to take this camera, all right, and probably a lens or two, all right, and more than likely one of my backpacks, and I'm going to, probably take along my light tripod, and I will hike into the mountains and find something to take a picture of, but I look at it as I got to have a flexible kit, and I got to have, the ability to switch around and in the situation to use what I like to use. And I don't know how you guys feel about it, and I'd love to know, so leave some comments down below. But, for me, vacation, I want to be light and nimble. On a photography trip, I want to try to cover as much as I can, but yet change lenses as little as I have to, and still capture great images. So that's kind of how to look at it. All right, so I'm going to take a couple images here of the stream, maybe a couple more of the bridge, and then once I get done with those, I will put those in so you can see them. All right, and then let's talk, when I get done with that, we'll talk a little bit about, some of the news from this week or the last couple weeks for OM systems and some of the new stuff coming out. Saw a couple images here that I just took, here at the bridge. Hopefully they turned out halfway decent, and certainly I'd love to know some comments, about what you think of them. So don't forget to throw those in down here at the, in the comment section for this video. All right, so let's talk a little bit about what OM Systems announced here recently. First, the OM3. Interesting concept. Seems to be some positive reviews and a few mixed, not necessarily negative, but mixed reviews. And again, I think it's an interesting looking camera. I think it's an interesting idea, and I think that, in the long run, we need options. Is it a little bit expensive at $2,000 or just under $2,000? Yeah, I think the price will probably come down a little bit, but it's definitely, everything that you would want. It's lighter than my Mark II, my OM1 Mark II, but it has a lot of the same features. It has the same sensor and a lot of the things that make it, very appealing. And so is it something I'm going to rush out and buy? The answer is no. Maybe somewhere down the road I might look for something like that, for travel situations. But at this particular moment, it's not something that I need, because I think I've got what I need covered with pretty decent equipment. So I'm not going to be doing anything. But I don't think there's anything negative to it. I think it's pretty positive. I think, any kind of development work that can be done by OM Systems to stay relevant and stay competitive, is a good move. And again, I think from a Micro Four Thirds standpoint, a lot of the computational features and the size and all the options you have, I think it's great. So I think, we should be, happy out using the equipment. And if they come out with something new, we certainly should support it and try it. Now, as far as the lenses go, I haven't tried any of this stuff, but, it's nice to see that we're updating, a couple of the primes, the 17 and the 25 1.8. Weather sealing, or at least a little bit of weather sealing on them would be nice. I haven't used them in the past, but I certainly would consider it. I'm a zoom shooter, so I don't really know if I would buy them, because I already have a 12 millimeter prime, and then of course I've got the Leica Q, but they definitely look like a good lens, and look like something, if that's the kind of photography you're into, you should go out and certainly try it, pick it up, and see if it's what you need. All right, the 100 to 400, Mark II. All right, I've shot the 100 to 400, the first version, and it was all right. I didn't have any problem with it. The only thing that gets me is, again, I like to shoot lower aperture lenses, and I also like fixed aperture lenses, to be perfectly honest, more than anything else. But I like, f2.8 to f4, something in that range, and this is an f5 to, was it 6.3. I use it and it's all right. It doesn't work well in a lot of the situations that I like to use, zooms like that in. So I don't know if I'm going to buy it, but I definitely think, coming out with a newer version of it and upgrading it and doing a couple things to it is probably a smart move. It's a good lens. I mean, I use it. It's just in the right applications. It just doesn't work well necessarily in my situations, but that doesn't mean it wouldn't work well for you. And pretty much any lens that's out, for this system that Olympus originally made, OM Systems is making today, they're all good lenses. It doesn't matter if they're the consumer, product or the pro product. They're all good. All right, just personal taste and things can play in it. So that's my views on the new stuff. I'd love to know yours. Throw those in the comments down below as well. So we can, not only I can read it, but I'd also like, all the viewers to read it. So, all right, I'm going to end my ramble. Thanks for coming along, everybody. Hopefully you enjoy this stuff. Make sure you give me a thumbs up. Make sure to leave a couple comments. All right, thanks for your time. Until we see you again, stay safe.